Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport. Can the Minister update my community and in particular councils and the outback trucking industry as to what consultation has been undertaken with local councils and outback consultative authority regarding any impact on the road infrastructure as a result of the recently announced fast-track freight reforms announced by the Premier? With your leave and that of the House, I'll explain further, Madam Speaker.
Leave assured, is leave granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the 7th of April, it was announced that longer road trains and new heavy vehicle reforms would take place to reduce costs of fuel and to lift the productivity and to reduce fuel usage by 18%, which everybody accepts and appreciates. Concerns have been raised as to how this new reform will impact on council roads and in particular the regional outback roads, which are unsealed roads and already impacted by the recent heavy rains.
Minister for Infrastructure and Transport.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Member, for his question. Very strong advocate for his region, but also a former Minister for Regional Roads. What I can say in beginning my answer is that council roads will not be impacted by this decision. Council roads, as much as we would very much like there to be increased productivity through decisions by councils, these are decisions that were taken immediately by myself as the new Minister to impact our roads. For the context, before I come specifically to the member's question on consultation, within a couple of days of having the privilege of being sworn in as the Minister, I put a task upon the department, and that was in the face of a global fuel crisis where the cost of diesel was significantly impacting both the margin but also the viability of the trucking industry. What could we do to move quickly and decisively to gain material and demonstrable productivity out of changes that we might have before us? In doing that, I want to thank the exceptional people that we have at the Department for Infrastructure and Transport who stepped up to the task. And what the Premier and I were able to announce almost a week to the day after being sworn in as the new cabinet was a series of changes that would, as the member has made the point in his question, seek to deliver a productivity gain and a fuel reduction due to changes on axle masses and access to roads by about 18%. You know, an 18%, Speaker, in the current climate, in fact, in any of the really margin-impacted climate that our trucking industry faces, is really important and one that we were really proud to do immediately as a new government. In respect to consultation, it's one thing that we will absolutely and unequivocally always put first and foremost is that when it comes to trucking and when it comes to our roads, safety always has to come first, even before the really material productivity gains that we make from this. In saying that, the consultation was broad and much of the work with working with industry and stakeholders had undertaken with a really significant pace. I do want to thank Steve Shearer from SADA and his executive who were quick to be able to step up to work with us collaboratively on this. I really want to thank him. And also Whiteline, where the Premier and I announced this. In respect to specific stakeholders, of course the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator were consulted and we worked collaboratively with them, Primary Producers SA, the RAA, as I said, the SADA, the South Australian Freight Council, Livestock and Rural Transporters Association, who I also want to thank personally for their willingness to work collaboratively and quickly with the government on this, and the Motor Traders Association, who we, as many peaks in this space, and a peak that I've had the privilege of working with for a number of years now, we value their input and value their advice to government. Speaker, what drove this was a material impact to gain productivity that puts safety first, but particularly in respect to our rural communities, ensuring that livestock, grain, and other precious commodities can be moved to keep these commodities flowing, but particularly keep the cash flow in these regional communities, such as the members for Stuart, who needs it so much.
Before